Welcome. Let's begin with a question. How do you spot the future before it arrives? In today's world, it's not enough to respond to change. We need to anticipate it. That's where weak signals and trends come in. This presentation is your introduction to these essential foresight tools. We'll explore how to recognize the faint whispers of change, understand how they evolve, and use them to make smarter decisions. In a fast-moving world, recognizing early patterns can give an organization a significant edge. Weak signals are like the first few raindrops before a storm. They may seem insignificant at first, but they can reveal powerful forces on the horizon. Organizations that are tuned into these subtle signals can prepare, adapt, and often lead the way when bigger changes unfold. So, what exactly are weak signals? They're early indicators of change. Usually scattered, subtle, and easy to overlook, weak signals are often dismissed as irrelevant or odd. But to trained eyes, they can hint at future disruption. Think back to when Bitcoin was just a fringe idea, or when the first smartphones added touch screens. Those were weak signals of massive transformations to come. While weak signals are like whispers, trends are like waves. A weak signal becomes a trend when it gains visibility, grows in momentum, and becomes part of the mainstream. First, there's emergence, where a pattern begins to take shape. Then growth, where adoption increases. And finally, establishment, when the trend becomes part of everyday life. Weak signals show up in three main ways. Rare discoveries, like strange but promising innovations in science or tech labs. Fringe behaviors, unusual actions taken by early adopters or niche communities. Emerging patterns, small repetitions that hint at bigger shifts. They're subtle and sometimes strange, but they can be incredibly powerful. Trends, on the other hand, are shaped by broader forces. Social factors like shifting values or demographics. Technological factors like new platforms or infrastructure. Economic forces like market preferences or consumer demand. And regulatory pressures from laws, policies, or compliance needs. When we analyze trends, we're really looking at how all these factors interact. It helps to compare the two side by side. Weak signals are low visibility, uncertain, and often limited to niche groups. Strong trends are high visibility, have proven impact, and are supported by data and adoption. But here's the key. Every trend started as a weak signal. So learning to spot them early is a powerful skill. So how does a weak signal become a strong trend? First, the media might start covering it, giving it visibility and credibility. Next, communities start to adopt it, validating and normalizing the behavior. Finally, institutions like businesses or governments accept and formalize it. This is how fringe becomes familiar. Let's walk through the journey. 1. A signal is detected, maybe by a curious researcher or sharp observer. 2. Early validation happens through studies or market feedback. 3. It crosses the chasm from niche adoption to mainstream interest. 4. Eventually it becomes integrated into everyday life and business. This is the transformation process that foresight helps us track. Like products, trends have life cycles. They begin with introduction, when adoption is limited. Then comes growth, with rapid attention and adoption. After that, maturity, when the trend stabilizes. And finally, decline, when it loses relevance or is replaced. Understanding where a trend is in its life cycle helps us plan effectively. When we talk about how trends spread, we often use the diffusion of innovation model. First comes knowledge. People hear about something new. Then persuasion. They form opinions, good or bad. Then decision, to adopt or reject it. And finally, implementation, putting the idea into action. This model is useful for understanding how ideas spread in real life. Spotting trends is really about recognizing patterns. You start with active scanning, looking beyond the obvious. Then apply noise filtering, separating signal from clutter. Use pattern matching to connect the dots, and engage in context mapping. Placing signals into a broader systems view. It's part science, part art. Not all change happens in the same way. Patterns of change fall into four broad types: linear, slow, steady progress; exponential, rapid, accelerating growth; cyclical, trends that come and go in repeating waves; disruptive, dramatic changes that upend entire systems. Recognizing these patterns helps you better anticipate what kind of change is occurring. Context is everything. A signal that's meaningful in one country or industry might be irrelevant in another. Cultural norms, economic stability, and regulation all shape how trends play out. Always interpret signals within the ecosystem where they exist. Trend analysis is a three-part process. 1. Signal collection, gathering clues from research, social media, interviews. 2. Pattern recognition, finding themes in the data using visualization or analysis. 3. Impact assessment, asking, so what? What does this mean for us? Good trend analysis turns information into insight. When doing trend analysis, think about three dimensions. Effectiveness, how much insight does the method give? Resource intensity, how much time, money, or effort does it take? Time horizon, is it focused on the near future or the long term? The right balance depends on your goal. You don't have to do all this manually. Today's trend analysts have powerful tools. Google Trends and BuzzSumo help track what people are searching and sharing. Brandwatch and Mention scan conversations online. AI platforms like Quid and Crayon analyze massive data sets and predict trend trajectories. These tools help turn weak signals into actionable foresight. To sharpen your skills, try these exercises. 1. Signal mapping. List 20 weak signals and find connections between them. Second trend. Timeline. Trace how 3 trends evolved over time. Third. Impact matrix. Rate signals by their potential impact and likelihood. Fourth. Scenario planning. Imagine 3 futures based on trend combinations. These exercises train you to think like a futurist. Of course, trend prediction isn't perfect. There are challenges. Signal versus noise. Sometimes what looks like a trend is just a blip. Cognitive bias. We tend to believe what supports our worldview. Timing uncertainty. Even when we're right, we might be early. And black swan events. Totally unexpected events that change everything. The key is to stay humble, open-minded, and agile. Trend insights are most powerful when they lead to action. Use them for product innovation, like Tesla, anticipating sustainability trends. Apply them in marketing, like Patagonia, aligning with environmental values. And transform your business model, like Netflix did, moving from DVDs to streaming. The best organizations don't wait for trends, they get ahead of them. So how do we move from information to insight to action? Develop trend sensitivity. Train yourself to notice the small stuff. Build your analysis toolkit. Learn how to evaluate what you see. Nurture strategic imagination. Practice thinking in what-ifs. And take action, because foresight only matters if it shapes what we do next. The future starts with what you choose to notice today.